So how was your day? Were you busy? Were you...
You became my employer today, Robert. How could you keep me on Twitter for that long? So I was just thinking about
Well,
the platform, and I'm thinking, oh my, Robert has really smoked me out. Here I am. It is one platform. In fact, I was shocked that I opened this
yes,
platform in 2012, but it looks
yes,
like I've not been using it. And I was there trying to
yeah,
figure out, okay, let me see how things go. But yeah, I enjoyed
yes.
myself trying to engage. Yeah, that's how my day was. And of course, as a coach, I ran from one Zoom engagement to another. In fact, I had to get a
Yeah,
client off the call and say, I have a commitment.
you see, this is public service. So even as you are making money, you must remember that the public needs their service, and then you must engage.
Yes, yes.
And of course, the people that are on this forum are a completely different tribe, and they're quite happy to be talking to people like you because you bring a lot of value and a lot of solutions in the lives of many people, Joan. And actually, on Friday, I was talking about you in one of the talks that I gave on Friday. I gave you because I was talking about career, managing your own career growth. And I told people about the story of Camilla, whom I'm sure you remember very well.
Yes,
You,
I
you
do.
remember. Now, Camilla just did one job. She was a receptionist until she left and died. She never did any other job. And then I told them, well, Joan was once a reporter, became a public health specialist, and now is a coach. So there are those types of career paths.
You keep evolving.
That's true. That's true. That's true. So I thought that the journey was fascinating enough to warrant a conversation with you, but also for you to bring on our spaces and in our forum valuable insights that people can take home and reflect upon and see how that improves their lives. Really, that's the purpose for our conversations here. I hope it's not anything that you find uh, either unattractive or unacceptable.
Wow, thank you, Robert, for bringing me to your tribe. It's really an honor. And I'm humbled that you smoked me out. Like I say, when I think about Twitter, I'm really a Kamolist. But
Well,
probably by the time I'm through this call, I will become an active user because I
you
can tell you
you
something
should.
that yeah, because I think as a result of
Uh,
you putting this thing out, I had over 100 new followers, and I'm thinking, okay, how am I supposed to keep them engaged? So you've already challenged me from that ground.
no, you see, it's an opportunity for you to demonstrate what it is you do and how useful it can be for other people. That's what this is all about. So the ball is in your court and you should go with it. So let's get started. It's 7 o'clock now. We normally run from 7 to 8:30. So if you're ready, I'm ready to go.
Yes, I'm ready, Robert.
Let's start. Um, I ask a question at the beginning of this session of everybody because I want to be sure that I'm dealing with a human being who was born through the normal human process, but perhaps with um, an insight or something that they came with on day one. So I wanted to ask you this direct question. First of all, question is, were you born? And the angle to me is, were you born with the coaching book in your hand?
What a question.
Exactly.
By
So
the way, I was born at midnight, at exactly 1 minute past midnight. That's what I'm told. So I don't know, maybe I came with a special assignment. The fact
exactly,
that I had to dive in.
and here we are with you. So the other thing, of course, because you said that I smoked you out of the guacamole, but what we do in these conversations is we're not just bringing the celebrities or people who are famous and well known or achievers or high achievers. No, we think that every single person has a story to tell from which we can learn. It doesn't matter what your status is. So I've told the people on this tribe that, guys, we shall bring people whose voices you've never heard before, because we might be missing something because these people are quiet. But if we bring them and they speak to us, we are the richer, we are the better. So, Joan, although you're a Kamolist, as you call yourself, we think that you have something to tell us. And even before I go ahead, I want to thank you for introducing me to Grace Linda. And I want to tell the people on this tribe, and I'll keep repeating it, please go and follow Grace Linda, because I'm planning to have a conversation with her sometime next week about mental health. And I am a very, very, for those of you who don't know, I have been a keen advocate of mental health because I had a very first-hand experience of the pains of mental health. My father suffered from schizophrenia, and he would get depression and sometimes a bit of bipolar. So I know the pains of mental health. So when I've had opportunity, I talk about it. So go and follow Grace, because I'll bring Grace next week to talk about. But today, Joan, I want you to help me understand the mental process. So the first time, Joan, I meet you is at New Vision. And at that point, you were a journalist in the features department and very prolific. Is that correct?
Thank you.
Joan, are you still there? Okay, good. Go on.
Yes. So, yeah, you were breaking a little bit. I don't know whether it was my side. Yes.
No, I live in a part of Kampala which has 2 hills. So I'm really struggling, but I wish I was at the farm, because there I just sit in direct line of sight of
Did you reclaim a swamp?
No. I wish I'd reclaimed the swamp. Anyway, so but the question I was asking, Joan, is that, yes, I think the first time we meet is at Vision, and at that point
Yes.
you were a features writer, a very prolific features writer, and then you woke up one day and decided to leave, and your boss was in anguish. So first of all, tell me, did you train as a journalist?
Okay, interesting question. No, at the university, I did, we are those ones who did proper BA Ruari, linguistics and religious studies.
You are the ones who used to carry, you used to carry clipboards and go and sit at the faculty on the ledge there. You're the ones who used to
Yes,
attend lectures.
we would do optical nutrition.
Then
And then when I stepped out, I think in linguistics, one of the things that I'd been.
Joan, are you back in now?
There she is.
Sorry, the problem was really on my side. So you were telling me about BLYD and going to the main hall and getting lectures on loudspeakers.
Yes, and no, of course,
go ahead.
no, we hadn't transitioned into the loudspeakers. Like you can see, I'm clearly not a millennial, so the loudspeakers hadn't started. But
okay.
So I'm not sure whether you had that bit where I had now transitioned to the Uganda Management Institute. That's where I came out to.
No.
Okay, so I can. Okay. So when I left the university and got my first job as a freelance writer, as it were, in the New Vision space, my late dad then told me, okay, fine, if this is the direction that you've decided to take, the best thing to do is go and get a proper qualification. And so I signed up at the Uganda Management Institute when we had the postgraduate diploma in journalism and media management studies. So I took that course and I came out top of my class. And I think because New Vision has a way of celebrating its people and putting them in the papers. What clearly occurred to my supervisor at the time was the fact that they had given me much publicity. probably somebody out there would poach me, and the next thing I knew, I had an offer to take on a full-time job as opposed to freelancing. Yes.
Oh,
So,
that was at Vision.
yes, at Vision.
Okay. So how long were you at Vision?
Close to 6 years.
And then you woke up and decided to do what?
Okay, now my story at Vision, when I jumped into Vision, because when you are a young professional, you're really trying to figure out what it is that you want to do with your life. At least that was my question. And then I started trying out a couple of different things, because with the features section, there were a number of things that one could do. And that was a time when gender was really high on gender, things to do with women's stuff. So I covered that. I covered children. I even contributed to Crazy Kampala because I needed money. I contributed to supplements. I contributed to supplements. But then I had this fascination for health reporting. What health reporting did for me was the fact that whether my story was used or not, I didn't care. I just felt that I left richer, because now I was talking to health professionals, and the things around health really fascinated me. That almost became my beat. Whether I was writing about women or men, I would always have a health angle to it. Now, in my young mind as a professional, I looked around and I said, if I stay in this newsroom, I might not grow. Because as far as I was concerned, the way I was interpreting it, it looked like people who were doing political reporting were the ones who were getting promotions. That was the lens, because remember, it is my life as a professional. I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, how many years am I going to be here waiting? And so I chose to, around that time, then I started thinking of what my next steps would be. And there was a fellowship program. Okay.
Now, just wait, Joan.
Yes.
And because part of you telling this story is also coaching people who are either going through the kind of questions that you faced or are likely to face them very soon. So I want to take you back a bit. So you join Vision, you are happy to contribute a story here, a story there, to make you a bit of money, but also you are happy to, you feel the joy and satisfaction of doing health reporting.
Yes.
Now, as an individual, when does the self-doubt, the questions about the fulfillment, the future start to come in? And just if you can, please describe that process, that mental process of going through those questions, the discussions with yourself. Did you talk to anybody? And what was growth for you at that time, the way you saw it? And why did you arrive, and how did you arrive at the fact that if I continue doing this, there's no chance of growth?
Okay, I think what happened after about 3 years of doing the work that I was doing, one, I applied for a master's program at the School of Oriental and African Studies. And
that's in London.
Yes, in London. And I was given an admission. And around that time, I remember I traveled to the UK. And when I got there, they told me that I had a scholarship. And then the scholarship, I was almost supposed to immediately enroll. And I thought, I think these people within New Vision will think I'm such a crook, because they gave me a letter to go on holiday. That's the letter that so if I don't go back and I say now I have a scholarship, it would look like I set them up. So that's how I was reasoning with myself.
Yes.
So I returned, and then my excitement is that I'm going to do my master's. So that's the excitement I have. Now, incidentally, around that time, that was a scholarship that was coming in from there was a UNESCO office in the UK. And I think the person who was leading it was Claire Short. There was an announcement that, that the office has been closed. And so whoever has been dealing with these people needs to contact Geneva. Now, forget about Google now. Forget about Google and the kind of internet we have now. At the time when they announced it, I said, okay, what is going on? So I realized that I think an opportunity has kind of dropped. But the interesting thing around that time, much as I had really looked forward to that, I had peace with me. And then I started thinking, okay, I have all these peace, but I know that I feel I want to move. What is the next agenda? And also the other thing is that
Did you at any stage have a conversation with anybody?
yes, with Barbara Kaija. It's very interesting that for me, yeah, my boss, I've always been an open book. So when I'm dealing with my bosses, I know, I tell them what's on my heart, so that there are no shocks that I bring into that space. Because the first time I tried to leave Vision, I was going to join some organization as a public relations person, and Barbara told me, you're going to waste your life. If you take that path, you're going to waste your life. I listened to her and I stayed put. Then, then another time I had an opportunity. It's very interesting that one time I had an opportunity to join World Vision. That's before I actually went into that space. And I remember what happened is because there was somebody called Geoffrey Denye, who was a senior writer.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, Denye. Yeah. I remember Denye.
Yes.
He's in Nairobi, or he went to Nairobi or something.
Yes, like he went to Nairobi. Now, around that time, they had also spotted me to kind of apply. And I mean, for people on the call, you never know who you're sitting next to. Because many times, every time I think about how I got into the World Vision space, the first time I got in touch with World Vision was really through their country director, Robbie Muhumuza. And guess where we met? We met in church. We were sitting on the same bench. And then those things where the pastors say, please greet your neighbor. So
I am going to church.
Go to church and greet your neighbor.
Yes, go to church and greet your neighbor. That's the moral.
Yes. So my neighbor was Robbie, and Robbie has a way of interacting with people. So within 1 minute, he had asked for my contact. He had already told me he reads my stories and loves them and says, okay, we will reach out to you. And probably that very week, they reached out to me to go for an interview. And and so now, now that, of course, the past, at that time, like I've said, everything was, you're a young professional, you're going through all this. They kind of, so when I told Barbara that, oh, by the way, I've come from an interview. And then she exclaimed and said, what is Robbie doing to me? That was the response. So between the two of them, they discussed and agreed that they were only taking one journalist, and of course they had to take the senior writer. But of course, for me now, that was my first real experience with a job interview, which I enjoyed. And I was just responding to questions the way they kind of come through. And I think I gave out too much information. That's how they started having their conversations and did their negotiation that they can't take away at the same time from the same desk. Yes. So then I embark on that journey. I do probably another year, and the fellowship program at Makerere University comes through. That was the School of Public Health with the Centers of Disease Control and Prevention. They put out a call. They wanted people with a master's degree. Definitely, I didn't have one, but I applied. And apparently, I was the best in those interviews. They put out the call. And they had to advertise. They had to re-advertise because they only took 3 of us, and they needed, I think, about 14 or something. So eventually, then they got us on board. Now, when I was in that space, never joke with people who have their papers. I would sit in the class with these people, and I couldn't understand what they were saying because my conceptual understanding was very limited. They all had master's degrees, and there I am. I've done my postgrad. And you know what happens in the newsroom? Okay, for you, you were in administration, you were a leader. In the newsroom, what you are doing, you go run after stories, come back, type the stories. You're basically interfacing with Word. That is all that you do. Then you go into this space and they're really discussing conceptual things, and you're at a loss. So in that moment,
what they call angazi.
yes, I was angazi. I challenged myself. One of the things, Robert, that you should know about me is that I'm a lifelong learner. And this is something that I work with, and that's the thing that supports me. So I have a high budget for my learning. It's one thing that I invest in myself. Every year you find me on some training program. So when I was in that class, one of the things that I decided, I said, okay, if we are all fellows, there's no way I'm going to compete with these people in the job market because they have a master's degree. I don't have it. And I made a decision that I was going to go and do my master's in public health. And so I go and do a master's in public health. That's how I get into public health as a full-time thing that I was doing. And when the fellowship ended, World Vision Uganda gave me a job. And two things, the pieces of advice that I left World Vision with that I live with to this day. Two people, one of them told me, you've come to World Vision. It is an international organization. Do not be involved in local politics. Those of you who are in offices, you know what politics means. And then another person told me, you've come to World Vision. It's like a big swimming pool. You either float or you sink. So those things.
How encouraging for you.
they were very voluminous because just think about it, that because of that piece of advice, I worked with World Vision for 15 months. And in exactly those 15 months, I went into the region. I started supporting projects at the Africa regional level. And then, of course, I never got back up to the point I decided to leave employment. So for me, it was more of making those strategic decisions. You're reflecting on self, figure out where is the gap, and then decide on your next steps. So I jumped into World Vision and I did all kinds of things: advocacy work, monitoring and evaluation, health programming. That became my new life.
First, John, I need to take you back because you know people like you keep dropping these profound statements as if it's normal and ordinary. You said something about how you make the steps or how you evaluate the steps to take next. How would you be evaluating those steps to know that now I need to move from here to there?
I think, Robert, for me, the key thing is being in a space where you're visualizing the kind of life you want to lead. So that visualization
Say that again.
Visualizing.
Say that.
Visualize.
No, this is serious, Joan. You're saying you need to be.
Yes, visualize.
You are
Did
laughing.
you just wake up and you go to the Ruggiero farm? You must have visualized the shoot.
No. I even knew. I even pictured what I would be doing at the age of 70, which part of the farm I would be sitting at and watching what. So, but what I wanted you to do is to kind of say that again for emphasis.
Yes, for each person on this call, if you've not kind of visualized and have a picture of what direction you want to take, because even when I talk about myself as an employment transition coach, the key message is transition happens based on how you want to carve out your path. So if, for example, if you decide that...
Say that again. Transition does what?
Happens based on how you want to carve out your path. If you're visualizing to be a CEO of a large financial institution, let me use Tony's example, since I know that Tony works with the Stanbic Group. If, for example, you're visualizing to be a CEO of Stanbic Bank, it means that you have to sit back and begin thinking, if I want to be a CEO, what do CEOs do? What kind of interactions do they have? What kind of networks do they have? What do they read? Which spaces are they in? So that then you begin carving yourself into that space and begin having conversations that push you in that direction. Because just think about it, Robert. I mean, in the media, when I remember the newsroom, I would look at it and I'm thinking, anything, I think our time, anything would go, you know. I remember William Pike would tell people that, ladies, if they feel smart, that's how they show up. For the men, I need a necktie. And we had this guy who had a dark yellow shirt and had a black necktie. It's like every time.
I remember the late Patrick Luganda. He just couldn't match the colors, man.
Yes. So for me, at that time,
He
I
would
would
be in a
tell
brown
myself,
trouser with a black shirt and a screaming tie, and the shoes would be Tony Red. Anyway,
yeah. So I'm just using that as an example to say I decided that for me, jeans they had no place for me in the newsroom, because I just felt I'm not going to be in this space forever. Let me dress for the future. So that is the thing. And it's very
wow.
interesting that many times people would call the features editor and they would say, please send us Joan to come and give us the coverage that we are looking for. To the extent that, Robert, there are moments, because journalists were known for brown envelopes, that they go scampering for brown envelopes. I would go to Barbara and say, you're sending me to cover something at the Sheraton, you're sending me to cover something at the Serena, can you give me money for lunch? So I would sign out,
Yes.
let me go, I will go pay for my meal, so that these people don't think that I've come here for food because I can't afford it. So there are things that I deliberately did because I felt, no, you must live the kind of life that you're looking out for. Because if you're going to go around scampering for brown envelopes, then you're thinking, okay, fine, is this the kind of lifestyle that I want to live? Just looking at where the next brown envelope is? Or can I come into a space and I'm having meaningful conversations with the hosts of the event?
And that maybe you will learn something that will lead you to that visualization you're having in your mind.
Yes, because things are never clear. The only interesting thing is that the universe responds. Robert, I have a book that I did a bit of, there's some visualization that I did in 2010. And one of the things that I put there was the fact that because I've always known myself as an encourager, I knew at some point I wanted to be in spaces to kind of just speak life, speak into people's lives. So my book in 2010 has those things. We are in 2021 and you've invited me on this platform. So here I am, just engaging with your tribe. These are things that you're not there to figure out how things are going to happen, but you're intentional. Because then you're also thinking, what do I want to be known for? What is it that I'm contributing to? Am I becoming a thought leader in this space? If I'm going to become that thought leader, what do I need to do to equip myself? Because people will only listen to you if they realize, okay, they will invite you if they feel there is value that you're going to add. So it's been a journey that has brought me to to this point, but it starts with the big picture of saying, let me visualize and see what happens. And it's not like I was that brilliant to think about it. I read a book by Jack Canfield, The Success Principles, and that's one of the
things. I know it. Read it.
Yeah, so that's when I did that exercise.
So Joan, now you've done time, you've been around the world, then how do you become a coach? When did you decide that now you're pivoting away from all that life that you've done and now you want to become a coach?
Okay, one key thing that I need to first tell your tribe is I discovered that I was an encourager when I was 29. We used to have a discipleship class at church. I belonged to Watoto, which was KPC then. We had a discipleship class and we used to do psychometric tests in that class. And the test revealed that I was an encourager and a trainer. And so then, for me, this whole piece of being an encourager is something that I lived with. I had no clue how I was going to use encouragement, but it's something that I lived with. And for those, for people who know me, who are close to me, they know that every situation that they will come with, I will have a word of encouragement in those circumstances. I don't just see gloom. I'm one of those people that will always look at a glass as half full, because I feel there is something, there is something there, there is something out there. And so then I get into this space of world vision. I'm doing programming work, but guess what? My journalistic hat is still on. Once a journalist, you're always one. You're questioning things.
Exactly. You're always asking questions. Yeah.
Yes, you're always asking questions. And I remember there's a scenario that I had. There was a restructuring that was happening, and we had a meeting in South Africa. And there was this lady who had been, she had been in an international job for as long as I had known her. And then they talk about this restructuring. And the lady literally starts wailing in the room. Wailing like somebody has really lost someone. I turned and looked at this person and I'm thinking, they've not even told you you're losing the job, but just the announcement that something is going to happen. And I just felt something.
You're kidding?
Yes, I said something is terribly wrong. If you've been in an international job for this long, and the moment they give you this news, this is the amount of shock you're getting, then it is something is amiss. And so I started wondering, so if people are in these organizations and we have all these tools that we use, strategic plan, I don't know what kind of work plan, you have a vision for the organization, you have a mission. But as individuals, do we
balanced scorecard?
I don't know whether we can get to the level of using the balanced scorecard on our lives, but yes, something to in that light. So I think that triggered off something in me to say, you know what, I need to use my gift of encouraging to just be in spaces and get people to realize that there is more to life. There is more that you can do beyond just being in these spaces. And so I kind of went on a quest. And in May of 2014, that's when I made a decision. And not that, I spoke to somebody who put me on the spot, someone called Alfred Agaba, who were doing, I went to him to say, well, this is what I feel I want to do. And he asked me, when are you leaving? When are you quitting? So you can imagine that it won't happen. And I decided that, okay, fine. I knew I would sign up one more contract. I had no reason to doubt that they would renew my contract. So I just thought, okay, I think this is an abrupt question. Maybe I will sign one more contract and leave employment in June of 2017. And he told me one thing: if you have decided that you're stepping out, work every day as if you're already out there. What did that
mean? Leave now.
Yes. So I started, that meant I had sleepless nights. I would work during the day for my employer. In the evening, I'm busy thinking about how I'm going to transition. And so in 20, then I left much earlier, 9 months earlier. So now I said, okay, I've never run even a tomato store. How am I going to go into this self-employment and start something? I don't know. I've not sold milk in my neighborhood. I haven't done this. So I signed up for a class. I signed up for a business.
I sold bread. I sold bread. I know how in my neighborhood. So go on.
So I went into the business class for 4 months. And there was a particular lesson that really tugged at me. They said, in the personal development space, anything goes. So there are no barriers to entry. And for me, when they said there are no barriers to entry, I was thinking, there is no way you can tell me anything goes. So I went I got on a quest to just figure out what programs are out there. I identified a program that was training coaches. I looked at a couple of programs in the region. None of them really spoke to me. And I landed on one that was in Singapore. And I thought, okay, let me do this one. Now I was thinking, what is going to happen here? Because Singapore is one of the most expensive places that you can go to. And here I am on a self-sponsorship mission. But earlier on, I had done, and one of the things that I didn't tell you, because I said I'm a lifelong learner, I invested in the Jack Canfield program as part of my transition.
In which one?
Jack Canfield. I told you I read his book in 2010.
Yeah.
Now, when I decide that I'm going to cross over and then I'm having all these thoughts of, okay, how am I going to brand myself in the market? I thought, okay, maybe let me do a global program. And the reason for that, Robert, I brought my naivety of the NGO space into the private space, because then you're coming there and you're telling people, can we do collaborations? I'm reaching out and I'm just using this NGO language. And guess what?
Yes.
People would have conversations with me, like the first, second conversation, and guess what? They disappear, because I think I could have sounded to them like I want to come and ride on their space. Okay.
Exactly.
Yes, you're genuinely seeking for collaborative endeavors, and then somebody is thinking
people are fleeing from you.
Yes, they are fleeing from you.
People are seeing threats.
Yes. And then I told myself, but Joan, you've been in a global entity. The world doesn't start and end with Uganda. So I decided to go for the Jack Canfield program. And it's the first most expensive class that I signed for, because I spent about $8,000. So I invested that money in myself, and it was such an eye-opener. So the reason I'm telling you that story is that when I choose to then do the coaching, and I'm thinking, Singapore, this is really going to be expensive and what, and I'm thinking, okay, but anyway, you paid for the other one, you would figure out how to raise the money. I write to them,
Yes.
and as the universe would have it, God was on my side. They write back and say, by the way, we have a training coming up in Kampala. And yes, and the cost of the program is $1,400. So for me, that was a non-brainer. If I cost $8,000, you've brought something to me of $1,400, and I know that this is the.
You don't even think about it.
I couldn't think about it. In fact, I ended up being the first the first recruit that they had, and so that put me on a journey, because then when I stepped into coaching, you know, when we were in primary school, when you would be performing terribly at math, at whatever subject, they would tell you go for coaching. So sometimes people actually think that that is coaching. Now, coaching is a science. So I get into this class, I stretch my mind, and I just got the fascination of coaching. And I said, I'm going to study coaching up to the highest level, because I had already told myself, I'm not, I have friends who would tell me, why don't you go for a PhD? And I would think, PhD, maybe if it's something that is speaking into people's lives, then maybe. So when I landed on coaching, I said, okay, let me study coaching to the highest.
Yes.
Because one of the things you discover about coaching, the more you know, the more you realize that you don't know. So it has been a journey.
True.
So right now I've done coaching, and I'm a professional certified coach. I'm credentialed by the International Coaching Federation. And again, talking about the fact that we said anything goes. We decided now as coaches. There was a team of coaches with the Strathmore Business School, and then those of us who had come from Coach Masters Academy, we came together and said, can we start a body, the International Coaching Federation Uganda chapter, to say, yes, we know that people have the title coach. It's almost as fancy as somebody saying they're a pastor. So those two titles are titles that people love using. So we
Joan,
and that's my journey into coaching.
Joan,
yes.
Okay, so let's stop for a bit and let me remind guys. I know you're all listening, and I want to encourage you guys to do two things. One, if you are on these spaces this evening, just go click on Joan's account and follow her. You will thank me for it. It doesn't cost you anything. It will not cost you the $8,000 she paid. It will not cost you the $1,400 she paid. But that money she paid was so she can be useful to you. So go and follow her and continue the conversations after this. And I'm about to tell you why. Secondly, on her recommendation, I linked up with somebody called Grace Linda, who is a professional counselor. Isn't she, Joan? She's a professional counselor.
Yes, she's a professional counselor. Counseling and coaching are cousins, first cousins.
Okay, so and the reason I'm saying this is that there is quite a bit of mental health challenges, even for people who don't know. So get conversations with those guys, because I think that in all that we're doing, we also need to take care of that. But Joan, this is why I am pushing people to do this. And I'm going to ask you a question, but first I must tell you why. Joan, you're aware that, for instance, government has made a decision to merge a number of agencies, and that means that a lot of people are going to be out of work in 2 years' time, many of whom are either in middle age or just slightly over middle age. So that means their options are really, really closed. Okay. There are people who are used to a particular lifestyle and so on. So things are going to change. So that's one category or one change process that's going to have very profound implications in the workplace and even for businesses, business partners of those organizations. If you've been a landlord or if you've been supplying food, Now your market has shrunk. So that's one element, Joan. The second one is, as a result of COVID-19, things have changed. And so these changes are not clear, but they are coming. And how prepared is everyone for these changes? If you ask people who are in the travel business, for instance, it's challenging. And then the third one is technology. Joan, the discussion I'm having with you now, we would be sitting in a studio with a producer, we would have had this interview structured. Here I am sitting with a little device called a phone. You are sitting on the other side with a little device called a phone, and we're holding a conference, and you are the keynote speaker. Okay? And there's hundreds of thousands of people out there listening to us. So, John, anybody facing all those three things at once, I want you now, in the next 10 or so minutes, John, I want you to coach me as the guy facing all those problems. Coach me, talk to me, tell me that I really need to believe.
Okay. So, Robert, I can clearly, thank you for sharing your story with me. What I hear is that you've come out of your job as a CEO and you're trying to explore a couple of options around you. So I am just wondering,
Yes,
we only have a few minutes to have a meaningful conversation with you, Robert.
yes,
What would you want to talk
yes.
about?
I have fears as because I don't know where the country is going. I don't know what my position will be. I have been holding a very important position. I was highly regarded. I was highly sought after. People were always there to do and help, as I said. So I have a feeling that my life is going to be reduced as a result of the change that is either happening or has happened. So I have these fears. What is going to become of me? And what will that new life look like?
Okay, okay. I can hear you, Robert, that you're in a state of contemplation, clearly. And I can
Yes,
see that there is a lot that has been happening for you. You are able to work up to the helm of your career in your organization. But you're asking a
yes.
pertinent question there, Robert. You're asking a question, if I hear you correctly, what would the new life
Mm.
look like for you? Am I getting that correctly?
Yes. And unfortunately, however much I try to visualize it, I am blinded by what my life used to be like and cannot imagine anything else.
Okay. So, Robert, help me understand, what would you
Mm.
like to have happen?
Mm. So I would have liked, first of all, to be sure and in control of the things that are happening or going to happen. Right now, I feel vulnerable and I feel like I have lost control of the process that I was always in control of, and therefore my life is now in the hands of different forces and groups that I cannot influence one way or the other, and that I may end up in a place that I don't know and I can't even imagine or visualize it, and that perhaps my dreams are shattered and ended, and I can't contemplate another type of life.
Okay. Can I play back what I'm hearing?
Yes,
You have, it sounds to me like you need to be sure and you want to have control
certainty as well.
and certainty. So tell me,
Yes,
what makes having this control important for you?
because it makes me feel that things are not as bad as I am imagining them to be. And it allows me to think clearly in my head and sort of work out which direction to go. As it is now, I feel like I don't have participation in that process.
Well, Robert, you just said something that is very profound there that you would really want to think. So help me understand, what would allow you to be able to think?
If I had a bit of breathing space, it seems like all of these things have happened suddenly and without my expectation. And because I don't know how and which direction they're going, it is I am more worried and anxious, and that is interfering with my ability to think. Every time I wake up in the morning, I'm in a sweat. Where will I get money to pay for the things that I have to pay for school fees, for my mortgage, for my feed my family, for just to survive?
Okay. So I hear, what is coming out for me clearly is that your mind is wandering. It almost feels, if I might share a metaphor with you, if that is okay with you.
Yes,
The picture that comes to my mind is one of somebody in the wild.
exactly. So my mind is completely unanchored. It is at sea, and there is no control of the waves. Of it's being tossed in all directions by what is it called? Not pilloried. It's being buffeted from all directions.
Uh-huh. And as you observe yourself in that wave, Robert, what is it that you want to tell yourself?
That I still matter. That I even if it's just to myself, that I am still a useful human being.
Okay, you still matter. So, Robert, we just have a few minutes to end our conversation. I would like to know, what do you want to have by the end of our conversation?
I would like my hand to be held and guided through these many process, this turbulence and uncertainty, and to maintain a certain calmness so that I can go through this phase to the other side, where I will then be able to see clearly.
Okay, you want your hand to be held, and I also hear that the need of a state of mind that is calm. And how would you know by the end of our conversation that you've achieved that state of calmness?
If the level of anxiety that I have goes down, and if I can go to bed tonight and sleep for 6 hours straight, I will know that I am in the right zone and in the right space.
Okay. Of course, the sleeping will happen after this conversation. And
Yes.
yeah, so I'm just
But
curious.
maybe also at the end of this conversation, it would be helpful to know that there is nothing unique or unusual or abnormal about the situation or circumstances I find myself in, and that I'm probably not alone in feeling and thinking the way I am thinking now.
Okay. Um, Robert, it's interesting that the kind of picture that you describe, and you being able
Yes,
to articulate the fact that you might not be alone. And I know that you've
yes,
been a CEO, and probably you've observed certain storms around. What do you believe to be true
yes.
for you?
Sorry, what do I believe to be?
To be true.
Well, that I am an incredibly or a perfectly capable person of running affairs, running my own affairs, and that actually I have absolutely and should have absolutely no reason to fear. I should be of faith and strong strength of character to go through these uncertain times, even as they present themselves, even as unprecedented as they are. It is not the first time, and that I can do it.
Okay. Great, very interesting, because one of the things that I observe, Robert, is there's a certain level of firmness with which you're stating the fact that you're a capable person, that you're perfectly capable, and you should absolutely have no reason to fear. Now, if you
Yes,
think about that intention for you to remain grounded,
yes.
what would support you to move forward with that intention?
clarity. If I can go through a process, first of all, manage the change that has happened, and so that that change doesn't inhibit my ability to engage in clear thinking and arrive at a clarity of purpose for the next phase. So it is managing the past, managing the current transition in such a way that it doesn't damage me or disable me from thinking clearly.
Okay. What comes through for me, Robert, as we are having this conversation, you have a high sense of awareness in terms of really what is happening around you.
Mm.
And my
Yep.
curiosity is just around understanding this piece on clarity. When you talk about this clarity, what kind of clarity is this clarity that you're trying to pursue?
Clarity of what what should be, what is it I should be going after, or the direction I am heading. That what should be my end game? What should be my lighthouse? Am I going east? Am I going west? And if so, why? And once those two are clear to me, the means will fall in place. So I need to know the choice and the why for that choice.
Okay. Thank you, Robert, for sharing that you need to be clear in terms of the choice. And earlier on, you actually said you're a perfectly capable, incredible person.
Yes.
So if you're to focus on that, Robert, that is perfectly incredible and capable person, what are those things that are clearly within your control, because you also wanted to, you want to be in control, that you can move forward with?
My thought process, the brain, I am in perfect control of it. My mind, I am in full control of it. The question is, what are the things that are trying to sabotage my mind?
So you want to establish the things that are sabotaging you.
Joan, let's do this. You see, guys who have just joined might be wondering what me and you are doing, but basically we were trying to play out what a typical coaching session does. So it's 8 o'clock now, and I must open up because there might be people out there who have their own questions for you and things they want to put to you. Because as I said, many of them people are going through big changes in their lives. People are going through changes in the workplace. People are going through changes in their bodies. People are going through changes in their age. People are going through changes in their relationships that are all unprecedented. So, Joan, I would like you to indulge us and let me take some views from the public. And I want to start with Otoa, because Otoa, he's going through changes. He doesn't even know he's going through changes. Every time a change comes, he runs to roast meat. Every time a change comes, he goes to roast meat. Tony, you talk to Joan.
Hi, Joan. It's nice to hear you speak. It's actually nice also to now, put a voice to the emails we've been sharing over the last few weeks. And Robert, I must say, what Joan is planning to do with a lot of the businesses within the incubator is to support them in this whole, coaching process for transition and change, and getting them to thrive. Now, Joan, if anything, there are two constants in life, two constants. One is time, that will always change, and also change, that is also a constant. So time and change. Now, a lot of the time, what usually makes it easier for us to probably, have that transition is preparation. But we are unlike certain, animals that really plan for certain eventualities. How do you help people plan for that change? Because change is inevitable, it has to happen. And what COVID has proven is that the whole world is drastically changing. If you look at the business world, the one that you're going to support us in, it's drastically changing. How do you get people to have the mind frame or the mindset for change beyond, just seeing the eventuality, but also planning for that curve that is uncertain or not seen?
Leave me alone. I'm in a meeting.
Okay.
Joan.
Yes.
Please.
There is a bit of background noise from someone. Okay.
I know who it is. Dark and lovely. You mute your mic. Then you can have
Sorry.
your clan meeting.
1,000 apologies.
Go on, Joan.
Okay. Thank you so much, Tony, and quite an interesting question. And probably when I'm talking about transition here, it's a whole cycle. I didn't go into what I mean when I'm dealing with employment transition, but transition is a full cycle. And yes, time is there, change is a constant. I want to kind of anchor onto what Michael was sharing yesterday. Michael, you brought me to this tribe because I was also trying to figure out how do they use these things? How do they get into this space? And I'm seeing you on my phone. We are not using our minds. That is the unfortunate bit. We are not using our minds. And Tony, the mind is such a powerful.
What do you mean?
And the mind is such a powerful tool, Robert. Robert, you put me on the spot to kind of do a coaching demo. But if you realize in that coaching conversation,
yes,
you're bouncing in and out, that there's a lot of you put a lot of your energy on everything that doesn't seem to work right. But in there are the gems that are hidden, that you're an incredible person. You know that you're capable.
Yes.
Now, if I'm going to have a conversation with you, probably, and remember, by the way, when we are doing coaching, it's not a one-off conversation. Coaching is a process.
That's true.
You don't just come up one morning and say, now coach me, I'm going to live with all the answers. It's an intervention. Remember, it is a science. And for me as a coach, I don't really have to worry so much about how is this conversation going to go. I just have to honor the science because I have been trained, my ear has been trained to use my eyes to observe. That is the oxymoron that we have in coaching. You listen, but you're observing. So Tony, back to your question, in terms of preparation, the key thing is to first empower the individual to be somebody that does a bit of visualization. Like I said, we are living in this VUCA world. It is volatile, things are uncertain, but you can sit down and say, where do I want to take my life? Because you start off by defining the journey that you want to take. Because where you're coming from, if you think about your life, the entire pathway that we've had, I'm yet to find somebody who just has, yes, my path was smooth all the way. So already within us is the resilience that is inbuilt. But unfortunately, when the shocks have come, you have to sit back and think, what is my next move? But you can't do that when you're surrounding yourself with noise. And I will share, when COVID happened, the first thing that happened, they canceled our LPOs. For me, as somebody who is self-employed, you're trying to run a business entity, and then they're telling you, okay, fine, the LPOs are canceled. You know what that means. But guess what? I coached myself in the moment and I said, I can't change anything about this. And COVID is not only impacting me. My next question was asked, how can I be useful in this process as the world tries to find answers? Because nobody has the answers. COVID came and I studied public health. We studied about pandemics, but we always knew those things that are in some corners. But all of a sudden, COVID comes and it hits everybody. So it is not unique to your situation. And we also know that in the past, there have been scenarios that have happened and people have pulled out okay. So that I think the first thing that I would really guide the person to is to first of all say, okay, let's get to a place of acceptance. We are not going to change the circumstances that are happening. So how do we support you then to get on a journey where you kind of figure out what you want in the horizon? And then we have conversations that help you to. By the way, we are in a time where you need to just discover your true north. Because once you're able to define that and uncover what matters, you evolve into your true, your authentic self. It is time up for us to be there thinking that, you're trying to kind of please everybody that is around you. I think I like Michael's story. And when I think about where he's going with his dream, you realize that God knew that he needed to get this PCM guy into an arts environment, because now from what he was telling us, philosophy, so that he can listen. Okay,
so he can even think, because before he was mechanical.
Yes, so the coaching space is a reflective space. It is a space for thinking. People pay us so that they can think. There's a lot of noise, Tony, around people. too much noise that they have to pull out of the noise and then listen through what it is that they are having. Yesterday, I was speaking to one of my clients, this is a client based in Malawi doing a global job. And then when we were having the conversation, the person said, you know what? I actually realized that what I'm fearing is to be vulnerable. And I told him, but
Exactly.
do you realize that in the 21st century, where we are dealing with millennials and the Gen Z, the key thing that they are interested in is to connect with real people. And so when you're vulnerable with them, they actually realize that I'm dealing with a human being. Whereas some of us who are in the generation X, we are coming from the model that we had was the industrial age. That is what was modeled before us. So everything is taking a certain structure. But if we are able to have meaningful conversations, we'll be able to sort ourselves out to understand this is the direction, the path that I'm going to take. And it's going to be different for every individual. Just have the reflective moments so that people are able to talk through and then give themselves hope. Because the hope is not going to come from any other person. You need to first get to a point of saying, what did I just say to myself? I just reminded myself, borrowing from Robert, that I am perfect, I'm incredible, and I'm a capable person. Now, if we know that you're incredible, you're capable, in that conversation, we might support you then to describe and define what that capable looks like. What constitutes that incredible? So that then out of that, you're able to map your next phase. I don't know if that helps.
Okay. Well, it will have to do. Or otherwise, then this is the important thing, Joan, that what we're doing now and what we've done today is the beginning of conversations. I also know that a lot of people in this forum are still in the grip of fear, and they don't even want to share some of the things, that the vulnerabilities, that in case they talk here publicly, Joan, they will be laughed at or made fun of. But I want to assure everybody that if you feel that you can't speak out now, you can reach out to Joan through her Twitter feed. She's also active on Facebook, quite active actually. And reach out to her, and maybe directly you can share and invest money, pay her. Why not? Because it's like how you go to a doctor. It's just that this time it's not your body paining, it's your mind that's giving you trouble. And to Grace Linda as well. There is one of my regular askers, so I will let her ask you the question. Dark and lovely. She won't say who she is, but well, we'll accept
Yeah.
her
Hi,
personal description
Robert.
of herself. Okay, yeah, go on.
Hi, Robert. Thank you for
Hi.
always giving me the opportunity to say something, a thing or two, probably
Yes.
three,
You go
because
ahead.
I've
Yes.
always been that girl in class who asks questions. I'm a backbencher, but I always ask and I always
Let me
contribute.
tell you something. The road
So
to
thank you.
success, the road to success is paved with many questions. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, John, for your presentation. And my contribution today is about the topic, actually. I'm a development worker by experience. So my career has been managed by contracts as far as employment is concerned. But I think all of us in this space today it's high time we started looking at our workplaces as strategic contributors. As in, organizations always have strategies, strategic plans. We only come, contribute, and go, because we usually not the first or the last contributors. So I always say, I come, I saw, I conquered. Next person should continue from there. But one thing I learned very early on as a project officer, when a project came to an end, a 5-year project suddenly came to an end, and I didn't know what to do with myself after at the end of the project. And then my HR officer then told me, Ruth, I said my
I
name.
knew. No. That's the only
Going
reason.
forward.
It's the only reason I allow you to speak, because I knew one day you'll reveal yourself. So we are
Oh
moving.
dear.
Thank you very
Okay.
much, Ruth. Now we know who you are.
Before I
Let's
forget, no,
continue.
please, let me say something. she told me, always prepare for your exit at the beginning of the contract.
True.
Yeah, always prepare your exit at the beginning of the contract. If you get a
Correct.
7-year contract, prepare for your exit at the beginning. And usually the saboteurs to this shock of ending employment is finances. People worry about how they are going to survive when they are not earning. That is the main, on top of, being credible, being skillful, at the end of the day, it comes down to finances. How am I going to survive without,
Without a
employment
regular
or
income.
earning? I can tell you for sure, when such an something like that an experience happens, give yourself a minimum of 1 year. And within that space of 1 year, if you haven't been visualizing where you want to go, you will come down and visualize. Eventually, at the end of the year, you will have visualized where your next move is.
You
How
know
do I
what?
survive, or how have I survived
You know
during
what?
those instances?
You know
Being
what,
an
Ruth?
ex-banker, I've always had a fixed deposit account that caters for my risks, my eventualities. Yeah, that's what I can say. I know I
Ruth,
run through it because I
no,
know people need to contribute
no,
as
don't
well.
worry. Ruth, what I wanted to say to you is that I ran
Mm.
into someone about 7 years ago. She was speaking to us, motivational speaking, and how she did it is she knew she wanted to leave, so she decided that for 6 months she would not spend a single penny of her salary. And
Yeah.
on the 30th of June, when she achieved it, on the 1st of July, she resigned immediately, because
Yes.
then she knew that she
Yes,
could
please.
live for 6 months without a salary. And
Yes,
she's
please.
gone on to be a very
But the
successful.
days go by, Robert. The days go by so fast. So that's why I put it to a year.
No,
But
but
that
you
is also
see,
possible. You could be
no,
lucky that within
but you
the
see,
6 months.
let me say
Sorry.
this to you, and
Mm.
I'm actually looking for a finance person that I can talk to about financial planning and these kinds of things. But my
Yeah.
own thinking is that if you do that, then you may never leave. But if you're ready to go in, because what will happen is in fourth, fifth month, you'll start looking for ways of earning. You can't be static. You have to find ways of earning. But
That
anyway,
is where I was going to, the side hustles. It's important for us to have side hustles. Gone are the days when people were shy about side hustles. Side hustles actually also fill in the gaps.
true.
Robert,
They become
Robert, you know what is
co-financiers forever.
interesting as I listen to the two of you?
Yep.
As I listen to the two,
Go on, Joan.
as I listen to the two of you, that's exactly what makes the difference between a mentor and a coach and a trainer. Because you see, because a mentor is somebody who is, I've been there, done that, and therefore I'm just sharing my story and giving you my journey and telling you, follow this path and it will work for you. Now, for a coach, for coaches, we know that somebody's life is simply like an iceberg. The reason why somebody knows that I need to save and they don't save, even when they have a lot of money, it would mean there is something underneath that you need to support them to surface as you lift the iceberg. So once they are very clear, once they gain an awareness, because coaching helps mainly in 3 areas. It majorly helps you to raise awareness around something, help you gain an understanding, or have clarity. Usually 90% of the conversations will go in any of those 3 directions. Either you're looking for, you're going to realize that my client is seeking to have awareness, my client is seeking to have an understanding about something, my client is trying to gain clarity on something. And that's where the conversation goes. We don't prescribe. And that's why, for example, those of us who subscribe to the 3rd generation coaching, the 3rd generation coaching is really transformative coaching to expand your thinking capacity. The 2nd generation coaching is the one on peak performance, the Tony Robbins of this world, walk on fire. Yes, you can do it. We cheer you on, we cheer you on. But we are asking, what is it that can come on the inside of you that will offer you that sustainable change, that the results are replicable? That I'm not just copying somebody's, I see Jackie Namara on the call. I'm not just copying and pasting what Jackie Namara is doing, and then I apply it to my life, because we are different. I'm not going to copy and paste what Michael is doing. And that's the difference with the coaching conversation. It's painful
You can
because
come.
you're not.
You can come and Joan. You can come and copy and paste coffee family.
And then you will not get the same results. Because I don't have the
True.
internal energy
True.
that keeps Robert going. And that's where you need to do a search and do a self-discovery and ask yourself, what really matters to me? Because if I'm clear in terms of what
Yes.
matters to me, then it will help. I'll tell you, Robert, that one of the things that I struggled with in the business space, I'm part of a network called
Yes.
Business Network International. And in this space,
Even you.
even me, hey, how do you run business in this city and you're not part of a BNI? Then you don't know what you're doing. I will invite you on Friday.
Everyone else is in there.
I
I'm
will
the only
invite
one who
you
is on
on
the
Friday to please join our tribe. But the idea here is
outside.
people used to kind of visit me to understand my business, and they always ask me the question around a financial goal. And yes, I'm running business. It just sounds weird. I found it difficult to come up with financial goals until one time I sought services of a coach. You know, every coach needs a coach. So I sought services of a coach.
True.
We went through these conversations, and one of the things that was manifested was the fact that money doesn't drive me. It doesn't give me the energy. So I needed to figure out what could give me the energy. And what happened is that I was able to determine how many conversations can I have with people, because for me, every single conversation that I have with an individual energizes me. And then I worked backwards. I worked backwards with that to say, okay, now this is what our financial thing is. And this is not to say that when I say that money doesn't drive me, doesn't mean that I don't charge for my services. And I charge well, because right now I'm doing my master certified coach certification process. And for me to be mentored, for every single mentoring session that I go for, I pay $400. So somebody cannot come to me and say, now can you coach me for 50K? When for me, I'm coughing $400 for my muscle to be grown. That was just a way to say, you know, the difference between a mentor and a coach is very solid, even from this conversation.
Right. Let me bring in other people to ask. Now, these ones you're going to have to write down. So let me give them a chance to speak. There is somebody called Musana Brian. Musana Brian, what do you have to say?
Yes, I just wanted to. I'm Musana Brian, just a
Yes,
recent graduate. I just wanted to know,
Yes.
how do you?
Yes. How do we what? We've lost you, Brian. Brian, can you? Oh dear, Brian, can you repeat your question? Brian. Okay. Let me try Simon Bagumaho. Simon Bagumaho.
Good evening, Robert, and thank you again. Very, very informative session. Thank you, John. First of all, Robert, the situation you were describing for yourself, was that real or fiction? Because I was getting quite encouraged that if Robert cannot get it right, then I probably can survive as well.
Do you want an answer to your
if you
question?
But
No, Simon, seriously, do you want an answer?
it would be very reassuring if it is what I am expecting.
Yes. The simple answer is yes, it is correct. I am describing exactly what I have been processing for the last 9 months.
This is probably the most motivating statement I have had in a long time, because
if you go away with anything from this evening, is that I am a
clearly,
human being. There is nothing superhuman about me. So go on.
absolutely unbelievable. It's actually amazing that I think for me the point that I was trying to make with John is the approach. I appreciate the approach of actually, because it seems you get the answers from the person. Like you're trying to make sure that the person gets sort of answers the questions themselves, as opposed to giving tips, do that, do that, do that, which is what is common everywhere. So thank you for that. I was going to ask, I don't know if it's okay, just to ask in your
Go ahead.
In your experience and in this work you're doing, what do you find is the major issue with people to be able to transition successfully? What is that one thing that you can say, this is what holds people back? Thank you.
Joan, answer that. Let's move. Joan, answer that.
Okay, thank you so much for the, by the way, for perfect observation that cancer answers come from within. Coaches do not prescribe. If you ever get a coach and somebody says, come and I coach you, and you go there and they tell you these are the steps, do step 1, do step 2, do step 3, probably you're not really paying for coaching services. You're paying for mentoring services, and you should know better that the best way to get mentoring services, you're dealing with somebody who has been there, done that. I guess for me, the major issues really are around their internal. There are those things that are kind of very invisible to the individual. A lot of things are around the belief systems that they have, the beliefs and assumptions and perspectives that they have about things. So they kind of stand in their way, because some or the fear they might be having internally, they are thinking, yes, I want to make this leap, but this is what is happening. And I need to put a caveat here that when I'm talking about transition, I'm not just talking about people who are leaving employment, because transition is also within. That's why you will find somebody who has done the same job for 10 years and no promotion, no nothing. They're frustrated, but they're doing the same thing. They've not given themselves time to kind of reflect and step out and see what else do I need to what else do I need to do? Who else? Who do I need to become? Because coaching focuses more on the individual than the situation. If you notice that I was not necessarily addressing the issues that Robert, the noise that Robert is pulling out. I was focusing more on him as an individual. Yes, there is a lot of noise, things are happening, but you've just described yourself as a perfect, incredible, capable person. Are you able to do, where do you see this incredible person? Where do you see this capable person? So the coach is really a mirror for you. They mirror back and you're able to see yourself from a different perspective, because you're an actor. You're an actor in that drama when you're narrating that story. So if you're that actor in the story, you need the audience. And in this case, the audience is me, who is a coach that is playing back and mirroring back things to you so that you're able to make sense of what is going on. And that's why the most difficult conversation is usually the first and second conversation. By the third conversation, the client has also picked up they've picked up the rhythm. They know that when I go to my coach, they're going to ask me what I need to talk about. I'm going to reflect on a couple of things. So it becomes much easier. Yes.
Let me take Maureen again as a question, and also let people know that because the internet is fairly unstable, when you ask to speak, you might drop off. Just keep asking. I'll let you in. So, Maureen again, go ahead.
Thank you very much, Robert. Good evening, Joan. Thanks for the session. My question is, what kind of clients do you receive? Like, what's your biggest clientele and why? Do you go to them also, or they come to you? Thank you.
Joan, let me take another question from Belinda Roana. Belinda Roana, ask your question.
Thank you very much, Robert. Good evening, all not viewers, really, listeners. Joan, thank you so much for the session. My name is Belinda. Mine is not necessarily a question, but appreciation, and just to echo the need for us in Uganda, especially, to have a paradigm shift. We really do need the coaching aspect, and the coaching aspect in this case, I mean what Joan has actually been talking about. You don't get to a coach and expect answers, divine anointing coming, flowing from above to the person below. And I think, like she's rightly said, we get so frustrated when someone asks you a question and they're trying to help you, guide you, walk through the situation with you, and all you want is, man, I paid this money, I need you to tell me now, go and start studying law. This is where you're going to get money from. That's what our mentality is like in Uganda, but I am so grateful that we've had this platform, and especially for the education. I don't know whether we have enough education enthusiasts here, but I think we need to champion this right from the grassroots. It's not helpful necessarily for us to be 45 and we're getting this. Now, I think we need to go back to the grass right through nursery, homeschooling, and learn to help and guide the fresh learners, the fresh minds to get through this whole coaching kind of thing. Thank you very much.
Okay, Joan, guess who I am going to ask to speak? Let me bring in somebody you probably know. Davis Wedi. Davis.
But was Zirunda. Okay.
Davis, speak, man. Speak. Talk to us. Davis, unmute your mic. Oh man, we've lost him. He's dropped off. Let me ask Viola China. Let me see if we can get Viola China, then we'll try Davis Wedi again. So, Davis, are you back? Davis, check your mic. Check your mic. Check your mic that it is unmuted. Then you can speak. Let's try Maureen Mers. Happier. Maureen, happier. Okay, speak now.
I'm a student. My name is Mercy, and from what I understand now is coaching is really important because I guess it's easier to do self-discovery. Sometimes, we are told sit back and think. We sit back and think, and we actually can't discover what exactly we are looking for. We can't find the answers. So I was wondering, from what I can see is coaching is expensive. So could there be offers for a student? Because, for example, if I were to take to speak of $400 a student, sometimes we're even going off Twitter waiting for 7 p.m. to just attend the space because even that is being expensive. So I'm wondering if there are offers maybe for students for coaching, or there are no offers, and I don't know. Is there a solution?
There are solutions in the world, and we shall find one for you for the students. Joan, I think we need to do a package. We shall have a chat offline. Yeah?
Yes, Robert.
So yeah, let me ask somebody called Mabior Ton. Mabior Ton, can you speak? Mabior Ton, you've been trying to talk for the last couple of times. And Davis Wedi, we really missed your intervention. So, Joan, can you respond to those questions that were asked of you?
Okay. Thank you so much, Maureen, Belinda, and Happier. Maureen, there's a whole spectrum, because when I talk about employment transition coaching, in fact, these days my mantra is employment transition is not equal to retirement planning. So the transition starts from, we do those who are at entry level, mid-career, we do executives, we do leadership. But in terms of the kind of clients that I'm getting, I'm mainly getting organizations. So they take us on because, and I have, both at in Uganda and global, these platforms, technology, our biggest client as a company, I run a company called Imagine Me Africa. You can look it up on the internet, www.imaginemeafrica.com. One of our biggest clients came through LinkedIn. So please be on these platforms and work through that. So it's organizations, especially those that are managing their talent pipeline. So those are the kinds of entities that we tend to attract as a company. But as an individual, I work with all kinds of individuals as long as they fit within the description of employment transition. Belinda, please, can you join the International Coaching Uganda Federation? International Coaching Federation Uganda. I heard you and I was really excited. I said, yeah, there is another coach. You're not part of the International Coaching Federation. So now I'm calling you out. Please join us. We'll be happy to have you. And yes, for people who are looking for answers, just pay a consultant. The reason a consultant is there is to give you solutions. Don't look for a coach when the services you're seeking for are for a consultant. So that's the thing that you need to be clear about. Do I need a coach? Do I need a mentor? Do I need a consultant? Do I need a counselor? Like this morning, I mean, when I was busy responding to the questions, they asked me something on mental health, and I said, well, as a coach, I'm not equipped to offer counseling services. That's why I had to kind of plug in Grace Linda, because ethically it's not even acceptable. So as a professional, I know that if I need services of another professional, I refer them. So please, when Grace Linda is coming to talk to us about mental health, just show up. Mercy, we have different coaches. Some of them are interested in students, and that is where their niche is. So there's all kinds, like Robert said, there are always solutions. Because for me, I'm speaking majorly from a point of employment transition. So I tend to attract people that are in the mid-level, executives and leaders. Those are the kind of people that tend to seek out my services. And again, because of the level at which I've equipped myself, the beautiful news is that organizations, especially those organizations that are trying to solicit for coaching services, please, in your calls for proposals, be clear. What are you looking for? Are you looking for coaches? Are you looking for consultants? At least now we are happy that we are beginning to see calls for proposals that are very clear. They are explicit and they are asking, are you an accredited coach? Are you part of ICF? So those are things that really, really excite me. Robert, I have to talk for the International Coaching Federation. I'm the founding president. So
it is okay. It is okay. What can I do anyway?
Yes, so for us as members of the International Coaching Federation, we are saying yes. We are happy. We encourage ourselves as members of the chapter. We are getting a number of those calls that come to us, and we share opportunities. We don't share those opportunities with people who are outside of the chapter, because then what is the benefit? If I'm not part of the chapter and I can get the benefits of people that are within the chapter, it doesn't help. So we have to kind of honor that space. But we also have the International Coaching Week that usually happens in May. We offer a lot of pro bono coaching services during that week. So probably for students, that is 1 week that you can always look out for. But certainly, I'm sure if you popped up, we can always ask in our network and we'll find people who are focusing on students. Over.
Right. Joan, I have 2 more questions that I want to take, and then I have extended this because at the beginning I messed it up and we lost 15 minutes. Let me ask Dr. Moline Mudsha. Dr. Moline Mudsha. Moline cares. What do you have to say?
Thank you very much, Robert. And sorry I joined late and maybe this was already answered. So in my contribution for the young people who are looking at coaching and being coached, my experience, because I have really managed to move myself from one space to another in terms of coaching myself. And the only thing that I can really say is that for us to have a growth mindset, because one thing that I remember when I left school, I said, I'm not going to see another book in my life. And for about 10 years, I shut out reading and my learning stopped. But when I woke up, I realized that almost every problem I encounter, someone has written a book about it. Someone has written an article about it. And I go, before I can even afford a coach, I taught myself. So I wanted to start a YouTube channel. I went and read about it and watched videos about it and practiced what I was instructed in those videos or in those books. So books like Think and Grow Rich, books like, books that will coach you about something step by step. Stephen Covey. Before you even get a mentor, because if you get a mentor and you don't have a growth mindset and you're not willing to learn things, the coach will tell you, go and do this, and you'll just go home and wait for the answer to come to you. So that's what I can say for those who think, oh, I can't afford coaching, I can't afford a mentor. These things don't cost money. A book is free if you can borrow a book from a friend. So that's what I would like to say. Maybe it was covered, but that is, I think, our biggest problem in Uganda, that people do not really want to read and coach themselves and learn. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Dr. Moline. And I now ask Jonathan.
Hi, my name is Jack Sempala. I'm based in Geneva. Lovely to hear.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, lovely to hear Joan's story because I identify with it. I've coached myself through an international organization, but I have a frustration with my family members, and I would like to know
Yes.
how Joan has done it with her own family members in terms of coaching. Thanks.
What has your family done to you, man?
Yeah, I mean it's what the South Africans call black tax in all senses.
Just forgive them.
they're close at hand. I'm not frustrated at all. I'm just I'm at that point where I just need to understand how to help them.
Okay, thank you very much, and I'll get Joan to answer you. But first, let's see if we can get Davis ready to speak. Davis, try.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Oh, finally, man. How are you?
Thank you so much, Robert. And thank you so much, the speakers. Joan, it's so nice to hear you. What a motivational story. Yeah. You talked about those days of the newsroom in New Vision. Yeah, I remember them. And I remember it's true, really, what you're saying is true about the New Vision and how you went through it. So you go through it. Yeah, but again, we saw you disappear, and then here you are. I've liked the story about the motivational. I mean, about the coaching. Something I wanted to find out. When you go around doing the coaching business that you're doing, even at international level, tell me, what differences do you meet in the field in regards to different nationalities or ethnic backgrounds of people? What challenges do you get among these groups? Let's say, I don't know if you've been to Ethiopia. I don't know if you've been to any Arab country. I don't know if there are any differences. You could please let me in on it and I see.
Okay, Joan, I think that will be it for questions. So you respond to those specific ones, Joan.
Okay, thank you so much. I'll start with Dr. Maureen. Thank you for reminding people that there's always free information out there. So the free information will support you. But usually I say information, when you don't apply the knowledge, it is gone. Oh, by the way, Robert, I'm also an author. I'm an author of a book,
Yes.
Corporates at a Crossroads. The key theme there is
I have
knowing
I have my copy.
knowing that your job isn't eternal and acting on that knowledge. So feel free to get that book from Aristoc or on Amazon, because then it will come as the cheapest knowledge that you can have, because it's a culmination of my different experiences, but most important experiences of people that gave us their authentic stories, which is very exciting. And so people can always do the free books. Now, I'm one person actually who doesn't really believe a lot in going around asking for the free things. You know why? If I don't feel the pinch, I don't necessarily have the urge to apply. So I hope everybody that is on this call, there's something you picked either from a question or from whatever it is that we said that you can apply. Because you can be on the platform and people will ask you, when did you start? And then they're asking you today, and probably you've not acted on anything. The important thing that for me, every learning opportunity, I must be able to demonstrate that I've applied one thing. That is one of the things that I look at. Just simple, the black tax, nobody is in control of that black tax apart from yourself. And so probably you need to have the tough conversations. And those tough conversations, there are things that are probably within you that are standing in your way. And those are the things that we might have to want to manifest and say, what supports you to kind of anchor certain things? Because there are certain habits that have probably, in my case, there are certain habits that I have cultivated over many years. Because I know that every income that I get, a certain percentage must go off into my savings, investments, and therefore whatever I have is supposed to take care of all these different splits. One of the popular formulas out there is the Jewish jazz principle. When the Jews get their money, 10% goes to their God tithe, 10% goes to giving, 10% goes to saving, then they get 20% that they use for investing, and they save, I mean, they spend 50%. So it all depends in terms of how have you put out those things. And when you meet the cost of wealth tax, do the requests go away? They continue. So you need to kind of be in charge in terms of that. And for Davis Weddy, the beautiful thing, like I said, I spent a whole dozen years in World Vision, and my job took me around from one country to another. I interface with different cultures, and I think a lot of the cultural things are in our minds. We tend to kind of come up with constructs around certain nationalities, certain ethnic groups, and those kind of stand in our way. The beauty is that even now, as I do my coaching, I'm part of the Coach Masters Academy, and everything has gone online. So we now run classes where you have literally students from all the continents, and we enjoy each other's spaces. So you get to a point and realize, okay, fine, what do I need to be mindful of? Because at the end of it, everybody desires the respect, so show them respect and then do the work. One of the entities that I'm working with is Village Reach. It's an international agency or international organization. And my clients, the ones that we are offering coaching, are spread across different countries. When I'm having conversations with them, I don't see that difference, because in that moment, the raw material I am working with is a conversation. And the other thing that I'm trying to manage in that process is the mind, to get the person to stay focused to the conversation. So we can have more chats around it. And thank you so much for inviting people to follow me. I'm sure I will start becoming more active on that page. Last year I went on LinkedIn. I jumped onto a big assignment. So Facebook, LinkedIn, now I'm coming this other side. Maybe the next thing will be TikTok. Over.
TikTok, maybe not quite yet. Oh, okay, sorry. And I was saying thank you very much for spending time with us, Joan.
It's a pleasure. Thank you for the invitation.
But also to let everybody know that tomorrow we have Professor Samuel Sejaka of Matt Abacus, and we shall be discussing why businesses fail. So, Joan, I think you need to have a front row seat on that.
Here. I'm booking my friends now that I've encountered the tribe. I know what goes on here. I will be here in the front row. Professor Sejaka,
you know what?
You just know I'm in the front. I'm on the front row.
By the way, Professor
Sejaka is also a coach. He's a professional coach. So
he told me that he's so proud of his position. Let me also say this to you, that the thing about these spaces is everybody gets a front row seat. So you listen. Everybody's getting a listen. So guys, Joan, thank you very much. Please continue engaging with our people, with our tribe. Talk to them, support them, help them. Full engagement. We're trying to get a really positive narrative, a corner of Twitter where we know things are just positive. We're not talking rosy. We're not being naive. We're just saying we need a corner where people find encouragement, where people find positivity, where people can go to as a sanctuary away from all this other stuff that's going on. So thank you very much, Joan, for bringing value to our discussions. And to you guys who are now spending a lot of evenings with me, hey, you just had my fears and vulnerabilities that I was sharing with Joan. Now you know that when you're here, I feel like I am part of a community and I am making a difference. So thank you, everybody. Thank you for being there with us. It's been a fantastic evening. Tomorrow we have Professor Sejaka. He'll be talking to us. And I hope we continue the process of adding value to each other. No toxicity, no negativity, no insolence, no rudeness. Just helping each other to grow.